Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to this session. UPSC Prelims 2026 has a lot of lessons for UPSC aspirants with regards to history. We have two sets of questions which were there in the examination and the split was close to 60-40. 40% of the questions were absurd, made no sense, and there is one question which can actually be challenged. On the other hand, there were 60% of the questions with the correct strategy, with the correct orientation, can be solved in the examination, and we don't need to really run behind certain forms of sources, but we need an understanding. In this session, we'll try to understand how to tackle these questions, what should be your strategy, the book list, and therefore, do we really need to change ourselves because UPSC is changing? Or should we wait for the whole trend to change or the UPSC to establish this trend itself? But the moral of the story is going to be that we need to understand and learn history now in a new way. Now, going by the number of questions, there is an upward trend this year because in 2024, we had 12 questions, which went to 16 in 2025. And this time there are 20 questions in the examination out of history, which is close to 40 marks. You cannot clear this examination without getting at least 50% of these questions correct, which I will tell you how you will manage. Remember one thing also, 2016 was easier. The 2025, since 2016, I'll say that the examination has been going in a certain trend, but 2025 was easier. And at the same point of time, we had questions which were conceptual and made sense. However, these 20 questions have a split of 12:8, where 8 questions are such which make no sense per se. There is no precedence. They're extremely difficult in that regard. The number used to be close to, you can say 25% of the questions. This time the split is much higher. On the other hand, we have 12 questions which basically can be done by standard sources. And if you have a very good understanding of history, I'll show you those questions also. Now, one thing you should understand is self-study can get you the examination, but going by the trend, you may need certain guidance to clear this in the first attempt itself. For that, I recommend you that you use this opportunity of 16,999 plus 12 months to join the Unacademy family using the code IAS English so that you can crack it in the first attempt. You don't have to waver around and you're not in the wrong direction. This offer is going to end very soon on 31st of May. So therefore, you can use this opportunity. Quite interesting that ways. Now, coming back to the question in hand, which we have right now, which is what is the way in which we have to look at the trend itself? See, as I said, from 16 questions to 20 questions, these 16 questions, at least 14 were manageable, 2 were extremely difficult. This time it has become 12:8, and in certain cases it has become 10:10, which is 50% of the questions were very difficult. Now let's understand what was the trend which UPSC has established and how you could have tackled it through the classes itself. Let's look at the question. For example, this is a new trend question which UPSC has now introduced with regards to giving 2 statements and then asking what is, for example, the inference of something like this, and you have to decide, okay, Pali text contain the terms itself, literary evidence, what is it indicative of? It is indicative of both. The answer was both. But something like this, you can actually do it from the class itself. We discussed the exact same terms in class, and in class we discussed what is second urbanization, which is basically the indication here itself. You can also go through the coursework in history and you will find in numismatics chapter exact same references. So this question is not difficult. If you find this question difficult, then your sources are incorrect. Then your approach is incorrect. Similarly, for example, this question, it is very easy, standard thing which we discuss again in class, as you can see here, and again directly discussed in a very standard book which is there. And therefore, here, demigod, yaksha, yakshi, as it is we discuss, is not part of Jainism. Very easy question. But again, people are finding this difficult because their approach is incorrect. Similarly, this question is again not very difficult. We discuss all of this in class, which is who are the Pandyan rulers, Chola rulers, again mentioned directly with page number I can give you from courseware. And this again is a very simple, straightforward question. We had questions like this, but we also have questions like this. This is the new trend. We are now going to chase this because this makes sense. Now here, rather than asking 1919, which again we discuss in class, how does the structure change? Similarly discussed in the courseware itself. But what is interesting is, they are giving us a statement. The genesis of political alliance based on community lay in the very nature. Now they are asking, how can this be supported through these different statements? Herein, we have answer as D. Basically, you have to understand the nature of the provisions as we indicate in class, as the courseware points out. And was there retention and extension? Yes. Was there the idea that it tries to break Indian nationalism? Yes. Were deprived classes looking for something like this? Here you have to understand deprived and depressed is different. See, this question is not factual. This is a new way of asking questions out of history, which is asking questions in such a way that factual questions can be made into conceptual, and there's a way to find the answer. Very interesting, very good. This is a good trend. This is actually a good trend. If UPSC wants to continue something, they should continue this, because this allows UPSC to then ask questions which made no sense previously. Though they have messed up one of these questions, which is the Nadi Shukta question, it is a question which is quite confusing. Something factually incorrect is being seen as the answer. I've already done a session on that, how to challenge that. The idea is very simple. UPSC is now establishing a new trend in history, and it is not a bad trend. If you're finding these type of questions difficult, then your approach is problematic, not the question paper. However, again, this type of question you don't chase. Now I'm going to the other extreme for a very good trend to a very made no sense. This, which is called the Mankhani plates, is actually picked up from an article on JSTOR, and it has no precedence, nothing. It was not even in the news. People may say that, okay, PIB. It is very difficult to even track PIB in that regard. It is saying that the water is coming from the Indian Ocean. It is very difficult to go into PIB and track everything. But this again has nothing as a precedence. The answer is all, but this is a question to be left. Similarly, for example, this question, you can eliminate and get the answers. But this person died in 1992, 34 years ago. There was a commemoration, one random article came in the newspaper. But again, there is no real precedence, because there is a commemoration for major singers are commemorated. Again, you don't chase this question. Can't learn the gharana of everybody. Similarly, this is again a question you can't chase. A trick question, that Kshetrapati is given in Rig Veda, Kshetrapatni is given in Atharva Veda. Answer being D. Again, nobody should be going by this. See, if you are doing self-study, you are going to chase these type of questions. It is going to become very difficult for you to manage history per se. If you are in a guided program, it is easier, because see, certain things have to be left. See, previously 25% of the paper, 25% of the questions of history had to be left. But this time this percentage was 40%, and if you knew how to manage the 12 questions or at least 10 questions out of these 20, your job was done. So UPSC has now established a trend. We understand what it is also. Now, what should be our approach? That is the question which we have to answer in this session. Now, as always, UPSC has the vaguest of all what is called as syllabus. It says History of India, Indian National Movement for prelims. They have even revealed the sources this time. Again, extremely vague. Standard textbooks. What does that mean? Government press releases, government websites, and newspapers, reputed newspapers, which means everything. Similarly, for prelims, we have a lot of vagueness. That is why UPSC has the power to ask anything. But mains is a little bit more sorted, because they talk about art and culture, they talk about modern India, they talk about Indian national movement specifically, they talk about post-independence and world history. Now, from this point forward, I will try to decode history for you. What is history for UPSC? What is the book list and how to approach it? And I'll show you some mains questions also. See, when we talk about importance and the concept itself, you have to understand one thing, that ancient, medieval, modern, art and culture. This is important for prelims because it is directly quoted. Modern art and culture come in mains also in GS paper 1. And world history and post-independence is something specific only mains. When we see questions of post-independence in the examination, for example, in 2025, it was a polity question, not a history question. So prelims, you have a whole set of questions which are coming through. You will again have mains exposure. This time it was 40, but 40 marks. You can have a range of 10 to 12 questions on an average. This time the average is above 15. Above that, you will get 3 to 8 questions of history in GS paper 1 also. History will help you in the essay paper also because historical context is needed. And it will also intersect with polity with regards to constitutional history. The same point of time, IR, world history, you have to understand IR. So let's be very clear. Nobody is clearing this examination without doing history. So it is not that you just start to read the Vedas or just give up on history per se. It is about right strategy, how to go about it. Now, there is a standard question which comes to me, which is, what is the book list? And there was a problem which existed till 2025. After 2025, that problem has been sorted. But the standard book list of history is 12th class part 1, 12th class part 2, 12th class part 3. This is the NCERTs, new NCERTs. New NCERTs. This is the new NCERT. This is, I will say, you should read this at least. This is your base. But if you are in class with me, your base becomes the PPT. Above that PPT, I would like you to read the NCERT. Then there are the old NCERTs which are there in the new form, which is R.S. Sharma, Satish Chandra, but Bipin Chandra's History of India is actually of no purpose. Rather, if you want, you can read the India Struggle for Independence better. People also tend to read Spectrum for history, for modern history specifically. You also have a book called Nitin Singhania. But Nitin Singhania, what has happened is that the ROI is not good enough for art and culture, close to 600 to 700 pages. People read Punadaldaya also. People read Tamil Nadu board also. There's a whole set. But the problem has always been that there is a combination, which is you have to read 12th class NCERT new, but you also have to read one standard book. Now, there used to be one standard book for UPSC, for example, for polity, that you read Lakshmikant. But the standard books for UPSC here were plethora, multiple. You had to read Nitin Singhania also, you had to read Spectrum also, you had to read, for example, a book like you have R.S. Sharma, you have Satish Chandra. Therefore, it used to become at least 8 to 9 books. Now, I have one-stop solution for you, written by me and with the understanding with McGraw-Hill, the same publisher as Lakshmikant. This book has all the 5 modules of history in it, which is ancient, early medieval, medieval, modern, art and culture. For prelims and mains both, it will cover it. There's no world history post-independence because then the book would have become very, very, very bulky. So the idea is, if you want to, the best, you can be A or B. A is to be in this set. B is basically you read the NCERT. I give you an option. You read the NCERT for self-study plus courseware. If you can do that, then you are sorted, because previously students used to say to me, is there one book for history? Yes, now there is one book for history which will cover everything for prelims and mains, ancient, medieval, early medieval, modern, art and culture. NCERT plus courseware is good. If you're my student of class, PPT plus NCERT plus courseware is more than enough. PPT plus courseware is also good enough. The idea is very simple. If you're in class with me, you don't have to personally read the NCERT because I'm covering that for you. You just have to read the PPT. If you are not doing this on self-study, you can substitute it with the PPT. PPT has NCERT embedded inside it. I am not saying that the 10 to 12 questions which have come in this examination cannot be answered through this strategy. Now you basically have to understand the ROI here. A person A reads Nitin Singhania, which is, for example, 800 pages. Then that person reads Spectrum, which is only for modern India, 900 pages. That person further reads the NCERTs. Obviously, you have to read that. That is close to 500 pages. You then have to also read R.S. Sharma, because you don't have not added something for Ancient India, that is again 2 to 300 pages. And together, then you have covered art and culture also. You have covered modern India also. You have covered ancient, medieval and modern. And you have covered what is called as ancient India. Still, there is no specialized resource for medieval. So Satish Chandra still has to be added, which is again close to 600 pages. You read all of this and you will get the 10 to 12 questions which have come in the examination in 2026. Or I'm asking you to only read the courseware, which is basically including ancient, medieval, modern, art and culture, early medieval, 648 pages, divided according to thematic. And if you want, you can add the NCERT, and this too will also get you 10 to 12 questions. So either you can be A, either you can be B, totally your call. Either way, you will solve the same number of questions only. In UPSC 2025, out of this strategy, 14 questions could be answered out of 16. Similarly, you have to read the same for the 14 questions. So it is now a matter of what type of route you want to take. So Booklist, you have now two ways to go. I leave it to you what you want to use with regards to how you want to go ahead. So Booklist should not be now a problem. Now comes the second question is, what are the type of questions which are coming in the mains examination? And then we'll talk about strategy now. When we talk about mains questions, these are two questions of 2025. We have them as available. UPSC has broken a trend. At the same point of time, the NCERT has removed the concept of what is called as Mughal history. They have asked a direct question on Akbar's religious policy, which again can be directly answered through a subsection in the courseware. And at the same point of time, they have asked a question on Harappan architecture, very simple question, again can be answered directly to the courseware, as Sri Lakshmi will tell you as a ranker for us last year. The idea is very simple. UPSC is asking both conceptual and factual, but UPSC has a very interesting trend. In prelims, they will ask conceptual plus factual plus quiz questions. In mains, they will ask conceptual plus factual, but they will make it more conceptual. As you can see, for example, nature of bhakti, contribution of Gupta and Chola period in Indian heritage, again can be answered directly. Similarly, you have questions out of modern India, out of art and culture, out of world history, out of post-independence, which basically are checking your conceptual clarity. So let's establish one thing based on the trend of 2025, 2024, 2026. One thing is becoming more and more clear, that rote learning is not going to work. Rattu Tota is not going to work. If you have no context for facts, you will not be able to answer not more than 2 to 3 questions. Basically, conceptual clarity is now key. Conceptual clarity with the understanding of the syllabus itself. Along with that, the embedded understanding, embedded concepts also has to be understood. Plus, at the same point of time, you should internalize the concepts and then do factual learning. Then only you are going to get the answer to this question, how to approach history. So then, therefore, what is going to be your approach? There are two approaches you can take. You can be in a guided program. For example, you can be with us in the Elevate batch, which starts on 1st of June, where I start modern India. The simple, straightforward approach here is going to be, you come to class, you are live with me, you have to do the PPTs, which I'm going to give you, which I'm going to discuss with you. I will give you a holistic understanding of everything. And then you are going to read the courseware, and you are going to read the NCERT maximum, and you are sorted and you are done now. It is my responsibility to take you from 0 to 100. I have always been and I always will be more oriented towards conceptual than factual, because just factual knowledge makes no sense. And therefore, every time when I'm teaching something in the class, I'm making sure that I'm telling you the how, why. Why is Montague Chelmsford coming? Why is that provision there? Rather than telling you the provision itself. However, you can also do self-study, obviously. And if you're doing self-study, see here, the way we cover it, in the number of days we cover it, how you have to revise, how you have to test it is all my responsibility. On the other hand, when it comes to self-study, the way you have to do it is very simple now, very straightforward. See, read the NCERTs to create base knowledge. Base knowledge. Then go to any standard book, which can be courseware also, which can be the other 6 also, totally your call, 1 or 6, that is totally your call. And now when you look at these books, you have to make sure that you understand the intricacies, rather I will say the nuances of the concepts. Try to understand why, because the new trend questions are checking your base knowledge in that regard. Now, you may ask me how much time will it take for a self-study student to actually go through the NCERT standard book and nuances, because now you can't just read mindlessly. What you have to do is, see, if we talk about time frame, per se, I would say that if you have 365 days, you should first start with modern India, because modern India gives you more understanding and it is more rewarding because it is in prelims and mains both. The number of questions this time is low, though there are only 4 questions out of which 2 were extremely difficult, cannot be answered. Still, the number of questions of modern India is consistent, 5 to 10, and therefore here you have to make sure that you are reading the correct sources but also have conceptual clarity. Rote learning, a person sitting there telling you learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this, learn this is not enough now. If you have to learn it, the book was already available. It is that you understand the whole concept itself. Modern India will take you at least 1 month for sure. If you're reading Spectrum, if you're reading courseware, still will need 1 month. Then you have to move to, for example, ancient and medieval, and then read art and culture. Why am I saying it? Because art and culture without ancient medieval will not make sense, because art and culture has historical context. You have to write answers also. Therefore, understanding ancient medieval is more important. But here you have to have a prelims orientation. But with the 2026 trend, you should also have conceptual clarity, because that is more important now. And you can use the sources which I have told you. Art and culture, there are 2 types of art and culture: period specific, non-period specific. Period specific should be read with the period itself. If you're reading Gupta, you should complete the cultural history also. Same way the courseware does it. Or non-period specific means dances, theatre, martial arts. No question per se has come out of that this time, other than the Mansoor Gharana question, which you can't chase. But art and culture has to be moved. Now, this will again take you a month. At least 1 month it will take you. And once you're done with this, then you can move on to world history and post-independence. So out of the 365 days, I'm asking you 60 days for history, first learning, foundational reading, everything, and then you can move to multiple revision cycles. Also follow the 15 minutes rule, which is learn some facts each and every day, because it is going to be critical for you to do that. If you're not going to do that, then it will become too overwhelming. So overall, what is going to be our strategy? 2026 is brutal, but it is not that we have to just change the strategy fully. We have enough evidence to say that UPSC has introduced a new concept. One thing is very clear: factual knowledge without context will not make sense. The basic takeaway is rote learning cannot be just sufficing you for the examination. Conceptual clarity, a conversation, an academic approach is more important. Optional type questions are coming. Therefore, we need an optional type approach. So therefore, if you are doing it yourself, refer to all these sources, keep these things in mind. If you are joining me for the Elevate batch or for Unacademy generally, then leave it to me. I will make sure that you will get those 10 to 15 questions which have to be done. This time, if you were my student, and this is testament to the comment section of the analysis paper also, that 8 to 10 questions everybody was able to manage. If they were reading the courseware, if they were in class, enough understanding was given to them. So I will thank you for being here for this session. I hope that this will help you contextualize things in the larger scheme of things. And please don't drastically change your understanding. 2026 was problematic, but we'll have to see for 27 if the UPSC still persists with this strategy. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.